Hello and welcome to another episode of the Virtual Engagement Ideas Summit. And today we have a very special guest joining us. Hoan Do is on the road. And so this is sort of a unique thing for both of us. Juan is a keynote speaker and a workshop facilitator, but is connecting from a remote place, not his home office. And I am also, in a way, connecting remotely because there are two big trucks outside and they've effectively cut off the internet to the building. So maybe we'll even talk about why it's good to have a backup plan, right? But please welcome, all the way from, today you're in Minnesota, Hoan Do. It's good to have you here. How are you?
Doing outstanding. I appreciate being here with you.
So you jumped right in when this world changed on us, and you are very much an in-person speaker. You love being there. You love engaging on the spot. But now you've really embraced this platform and done an amazing job, and even been a great resource to a lot of people on good engagement ideas. Are there some things that you'd be willing to share with us today? Some things you were thinking about leading up to our get together today?
Yeah, most definitely. First, thank you for the kind words. And yeah, things have changed for all of us. And I think it's really embracing that change because if you're in a state of denial, you can't make progress. So for me, what's really helped is when we think about the idea of engagement, it's such a broad term. What does that really mean? And for me, we kind of created a model, like a 6-step framework called the Engage model to help increase excitement, participation, and results from meetings and events that will be held on campus. So using the word engage as an acronym, I think the very first thing is if you want more engagement and participation is you got to ensure that everyone feels welcomed. Imagine when we meet virtually, it's like inviting someone into your house, right? You want to make sure that, if they need water, they need food, you want to make sure they feel comforted and welcomed into your home. It's the same thing when we engage in a virtual setting. And a simple way to do that is when you hop on a Zoom call, whatever platform you're using, is when people start hopping on, acknowledge their name, saying, "Hey, Jason, thanks for jumping on. Mary, I love seeing you here," right? You can also private message people all throughout the event or the meeting so that people feel acknowledged. After you ensure everyone feels welcome, the N stands for never begin an event or meeting without establishing clear rules. What I mean by that is when we meet in person, it's very easy to know, like, oh, I probably shouldn't be talking now because someone's speaking right now. And I don't want to interfere because they'll probably stop talking. In a virtual setting, I mean, how many times does it happen where someone talks and someone talks over another person? So the way to prevent that is to make sure you establish the rules up front of saying, hey, you know what, this is how this event's going to work. If you have a question, raise a virtual hand. I'm going to call on you. It helps to just prevent congestion. G stands for get prepared by practicing in advance. I mean, Jason, you just shared about technology issues. This happens all the time. So to alleviate that, make sure you take time in advance to prepare with technical challenges, to prepare what's going to be shared, to kind of go over the outline. A, which is the fourth tip, is to always ask for support. When we engage virtually, it should never be a one-person team. I know whenever we do programs is we make sure we have our team backing us up in case we have these technical challenges and there's one person dedicated to that. There's one person dedicated to welcoming people to the event. So make sure it's a team effort. Second to last tip, which is the second G, is get familiar with your virtual tools. I know there's so many great things that we can use, whether you talk about breakout rooms, the chat window, you talk about the reactions. Those things are great to increase engagement. And then the last thing is to make sure you end with a call to action. I know a lot of times on campus, it's so easy to say, I want students to feel inspired, to feel they took something away. And one thing I realize is assessment is so important. You have the qualitative, which is like, I felt amazing, this changed my life, but we need the quantitative data to back it up, because I know with funding changing a lot of campuses across the country, you got to make sure you can get data points to back up to show the return on investment for your event. So ending with a call to action is like saying, if you really enjoyed this event, go ahead and sign up for the next event. Or if you found that this has changed your life, make sure you fill out the survey form so that you have X amount of survey forms filled to give to your boss or leadership team. So again, I believe we want to increase in virtual engagement is to use those 6 tips to do that.
Wow, that's great. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to memorize that and sing it as I skip around Nashville and make sure that I get it right. You've done many events since March 15th. Have you encountered any snafus along the way, sort of funny stories or hiccups on the road?
Oh man, which one do I choose? I think, I mean, just like you, right? You've had a lot of experiences. I think the biggest challenge is involving the technology component, right? You think you're talking, but all of a sudden you're on mute, or all of a sudden you're saying an important point and the internet decides to shut out.
Yeah.
So I've had those happen a handful of times, and those were not fun in the moment, but they're valuable learning lessons. And I think that's the key point to take away, is that we are all navigating this new normal together. And I think it's having grace for ourselves and focus on, hey, you know what, we're going to keep putting out events. We know we're going to make mistakes, but that's part of learning and becoming better, and just being okay with it.
You know, as a musician, if I'm on stage in the middle of a song and a string breaks, right, it's not the end of the world, right? There's nobody's in danger, right? We're still safe in front of our computers somewhere. And so in your workshops, are you willing to share some of your organic engagement things that you do? Some of your go-to ideas just to get students excited to talk to you. You're already an engaging speaker, right? So you already bring that. But any ideas for advisors who might be running meetings?
Most definitely. I'll give 2 of the most powerful tips. Number 1 is utilizing something I think is probably the most powerful tool that's underutilized, which is the chat window, right? Oftentimes when we're talking, we're just kind of just going. And if you're live in a person, you can get that the feedback of like, oh, like, I'm losing them. I got to engage them. Virtually, it's like you're trying to manage a lot of things. But one way to visually see that people are engaged is to use that chat window. So every time that we're running a meeting internally or an event, we're always doing a call to action. So for example, it's like, go and share with me just one word, share with the group how you started off feeling this morning. Go and type in the chat window.
Yeah.
Right? What are your thoughts? Go ahead and type in the chat window. The thing is, the more times you tell them to do it, the more likely they will do it. But you have to constantly give that opportunity. So I'd say that's one of the most underutilized things, is to use that chat window. But then number 2 is to use physical gestures. I mean, I know we're in a virtual world now. It doesn't mean we can't use the things we use when we were in person virtually. And I know, Jason, you do a lot of this as well, as what this little thing saying, oh my gosh, let's say you're recognizing each member of your student leadership team saying they did a great job. Everyone, go and give them a round of applause. Everyone starts clapping. Or everyone, let's give a virtual fist bump, boom, to the camera back. But those are little things that bring a physical aspect into this virtual world. So I'd say those are the 2 most powerful things I found out that work exceptionally well.
That's great. That's going to be very helpful for everyone. Thank you for sharing that. Hey, what other thoughts have you had, knowing that we were going to be chatting today, as you've been driving across the country, seeing all the beautiful sights, what's some sort of closing advice you give to advisors as they're moving into the fall semester?
Oh, man. I'm going to do twofold. Number 1 is from a mindset perspective, is the idea of fail fast. Meaning is, there's a lot of things like, will this work? Well, we don't know until you actually try it. And if it doesn't work, give yourself grace, saying, all right, it didn't work. But take a perspective as like a objective scientist. I mean, you don't take it personally. It's like, oh, this didn't work, but what did work? Take that, apply it to the next event. Yeah. By having that perspective, it helps us to keep failing fast and failing forward and just trying the next thing and not taking it to heart and personally, because I know in the student affairs profession is that oftentimes you are not recognized for all the incredible things that you're doing. It just blows my mind how much effort, energy, and care that goes into planning events, to mentoring students. So I think it's really important to take that perspective and say, let's keep on trying. It doesn't work. It's okay. Let's move on to the next thing. Yeah. From the second piece of tip is from a more tactical perspective, is when you talk about attendance and measuring success, is get even more intentional with this, with the data. And the reason why is because think about how challenging if the event is not built in and mandatory, whether it's a convocation, whether it's new student orientation, if it's not required during in-person events, it was challenging to get students to attend certain events. Well, when you talk about it being a virtual event, I believe it can be even more challenging because one, the morale can be down. And people are like, I don't want to do this. It's not as fun. So getting attendance is even more important. So make sure you elicit help. So if you decide to bring musicians, magicians, speakers to campus, ask them to help you. Don't do it all yourself. So I would ask every single artist to say, hey, to make this a successful event I need you to film a personalized video to get students pumped up and excited and send it to me to increase engagement. If you can get artists to donate swag or build it into your budget when you hire an artist, maybe it's those virtual gift cards. That works so well to incentivize students to attend. So whether it's in your budget or you negotiate with the artist to donate some, that's going to be really important. And then with your event, make sure to ask yourself, what would need to happen for this event to be a massive success? What would specifically need to happen? And by thinking about that in advance, you can then intentionally plan out your event to capture any data that you need. Every event should have a survey, but then ask yourself, what is the call to action, right? If you're going to bring in an artist to make an awesome event, your students are going to be excited, but you need to plan the next thing and invite them to the next thing immediately. You got to strike while the iron is hot to constantly get that engagement rolling throughout the fall and the rest of the school year.
That is great, great advice. And I appreciate your time today. A big thanks to Hoan Do for being here today and sharing all his awesome knowledge. Have a safe trip wherever you're headed next. And thank you for your time. Can we end with a big fist bump?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Boom.